begin. And I would have wanted Brother Enos to start us with a word of prayer, and then we could start.
Okay, let's pray. Our Father and our God, we come before you this Sabbath morning to worship you and glorify your name. Thank you, Lord, for giving us this moment to start thy word through the Bible study, the lesson. We thank you, Father, for the care and protection you've given unto us through the week up to this moment. May you worship you this day in truth and spirit, oh Father, for this is our prayer. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
So again, let me welcome everybody, those watching at home through YouTube, and those we are all somewhere seated in a house. Maybe you are in this Zoom room. 15 participants are here today, and we are quite grateful. And I know there's so many people who will be watching through there or through a link that is going to be in Facebook. I'd like to apologize first for a situation that is happening on our YouTube. At the moment, we cannot be able to stream through our YouTube because of some copyright issues that, but we'll be resolving them. But as we are resolving them, we created another link where people can still watch through YouTube. That is that. But then now we are here, new quarter, and still locked in our houses with this old problem that has visited us. And it has been now with us now for a year and a half. But that hasn't stopped us from reading and understanding what God wants us to do. We are going to be going through a very interesting quarter. Interesting quarter in this sense that even the people who are who came up with this quarter are two writers that again some time back, I think it's another quarter, was it God with Us or something, one of those quarters, it's still these two, the brothers who've written that quarter. And they have a way of coming through a story, and their story always starts from the beginning. It always comes from the Garden of Eden, then we go. And the quarter is about the promise. It's not one promise. If you go through, it's the same promise, but told to so many people. And the promise doesn't start at where we know that the covenant began, but the promise started a bit earlier. And the promise was given to Adam and Eve just at the beginning. And we'll see that just at the beginning, there's going to be this promise. We will go again and see this promise being renewed at a time of Noah. Then we'll see the covenant and the promise that is going to be what is binding us here right now. But that promise is, the person who consistently breaks the promise is going to be us, the rebellious humankind. We will break the promise. We will break the covenant. But God will come and restore the promise again. And in Isaiah, restore the promise again. And in Daniel, restore the promise again. And as we go ahead in Micah, restore the promise again. And through the John the Baptist, restores the promise again. And then the promise happens. It's a big event. The promise then starts happening when Christ steps the ground. And the promise is continuously going to be with us as we go on. That's just an introduction of what we are going to be covering. So I don't want any one of us to be missing out, because there is so much that will touch us from one corner of the Bible to the end. We will see promise after promise after promise. God still loves us that much to continue giving us promises, even when we are so rebellious. But we can't start any story without starting from where we began. So where did we begin? What really happened? The week of lesson starts with just that question. What happened? I want to read the key text. The key text comes from the book of Genesis 1, 26 to 27. The version that is in the lesson comes from the NRSV version. I've never known what NRSV means, but Elder, what does NRSV mean?
New Revised Standard Version.
All right, thank you. So this is the memory text. Then God said, let us make humankind in our own image according to our likeness. So God created humankind in his image. In the image of God, he created them, male and female, he created them. Now, the memory text talks about our image in God's image. The memory text touches on male and female before we even have the creation of Eve being mentioned. It's already there. Male and female, we are both in the image of God. This should be very clear. I've always had this argument that Adam was the one in the image of God, and Eve was an extract, an extract of Adam. But here we are. Just before we even talk about Adam, we have male and female being mentioned, that they were created in the image of God. So what happened? Why is this very relevant? Why do we need to talk about the image first before we come to what we are talking about, the promise? Let's see. I want to leave it at that so that comments can come in. And I want to open up for comments so that we come down to an interesting topic, turtles all the way down. And Elder, I'd want you to lead us on that one. But in the meantime, can people make some comments on this beginning?
Let me say something. In this image and likeness of God, I think on this basis, God wanted us to respond and have a fellowship with him. And it's a unique thing in the whole story of creation. Because if you remember when God he was just mentioning, and here he talked to the Trinity, let us make man in our own image. So God gave man a responsibility. And of course, he wanted to have that fellowship with him. And it was a fellowship of holiness, if I can say, that God wanted to have with this man in creation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Enos. You've heard what Enos is talking about, the issue of image. He's brought it out quite nicely. Any other comment? Any other comment?
Now, in this quarter, Elder, we would look at God's covenant and what it offers and what its demands are. In fact, we would discover that God's covenant is enshrined with love, whilst the covenant relationships that we make with other human beings on this earth may not revolve around love, but actually revolve around fear. So again, that will come out very clearly in our discussion today, since we're looking at the covenant promise. Thank you.
Naomi, you had something to say, and now we have a face. Good, Naomi.
Yeah. Thank you. So in the introduction, just like you said, the title is "What Happened." So my thought is, what happened to what? What exactly are we discussing? What changed about that thing? So I think from just like you read for us in Genesis, for me, I saw 4 things that you're going to navigate around and understand what happened to those 4 aspects. And that is number 1, our origin. What happened to our understanding of our origin? Number 2, what happened to our relationship that we had with Christ, with God? What happened? Was there a change? Did it become better? Did it become worse? Yeah. And what about our purpose? because we know our purpose is attached to our identity, who is Christ himself. So what happened to our purpose? And finally, was there hope after things changed? Was there hope after what happened? Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yes. Now I want us to stop there a bit and maybe come down, turtles all the way down. And the beautiful thing is how it begins. I want to read this one. This one and the text. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. That part I wanted to read it, Elder. So maybe Elder, you can take us through. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. I don't know whether you can hear me well. It seems that even as I listen to you, voices are a little low.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, but I hope you're getting me well. Huh?
Yes.
Yeah, loud and clear.
Yeah, thank you. Now, if you look at Sunday's main theme, talks about turtles all the way down. And I guess Elder is challenging me here from my scientific background, be able to demystify that. But in essence, what we're looking at has to do with the existence of our universe. So the question we would like to ask here is, now, where did the universe come from? That is a crucial question. It is actually tied around the universe is the issue of human existence, and also the nature of this universe. Again, we will pose philosophical questions. These questions are important if we have to understand who we are and what are we doing here, meaning why are we on earth today, and how did we get here? By the way, when you look at the main texts in Sunday's theme, they revolve around our existence. In other words, our origins, how we came here. And in the course of time, we also try to answer the question that was also posed in the lesson that has just ended, the book of Isaiah. I remember we saw the tribulations in the book of Isaiah, the sad events that went on, and then the issue of comfort and restoration that comes towards the end of that particular book. Here also we be able to see this promise, and we're talking about the everlasting promise as the great hope that is associated with what has happened to humanity, as my sister was trying to explain. So indeed, if we understand why we're here and where we're finally going, then we can be able to begin to interrogate our relationship with our divine being, that is our God. Now, the story of the existence of the universe, as the author tries to put it here, really is linked to a discourse between this lecturer, who is a scientist, and this mama, this lady that seemed not to have understood the nature of the cosmos. And one would excuse her because, examining her age, one would realize that there's no way she would have understood the science that would explain the existence of the universe. According to this lady, indeed, she believed that the earth was a flat disk sitting on the back of a turtle. And interestingly, if you will, euphemistically, the scientist tries to probe further to find out really what I believe is about this earth, as according to our explanation. And she goes on to say that although the disk was sitting on the back of a turtle. She went on to explain when she was further probed to explain really how that would really make sense. Then she said that the turtle also sat on another turtle, and then she continued, and then finally this scientist actually got the feeling that perhaps this lady may not have understood the essential principles that explained the fact that really the universe was very complex, indeed complex. And it may not be something that would be explained by human science, if you will. So according to her, actually it's turtles upon turtles upon turtles and so on. And that is her belief and faith about the universe. But you know, unlike this lady, all of us, in fact, have, or like this lady, many of us have problems about our existence. We have questions about how we got here. And perhaps I would like Gift, you can read Genesis 1, verse number 1. Very interesting verse, by the way. We may not have time to interrogate that particular verse in detail, but just read it so that we find out what it says. Genesis 1, verse number 1. Yes.
Yeah, the Bible records that in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth.
Yes. You may even stop there, Gift. Now, the Bible does not explain itself. It simply says that in the beginning, God did what? Created the earth, created the cosmos. And if you were to interrogate that verse, the first question would be, you have to believe first that actually God created. And if you are the product of creation, in my imagination, there's no way you can interrogate the, if you will, the authenticity of that creation, because you are simply a product of creation. You see, and the product of creation cannot be able to interrogate the ingenuity of the creator. For me, that in itself actually is compelling, that I would have to believe by faith that actually God himself created the universe, and therefore created everything in the universe, including us that exist in the universe. Now, Gift also read Psalm 100, verse number 3. 100, verse number 3.
Okay. Psalms 100, verse number 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Bible records, just a second. The Bible records that, know that the Lord, he is God. It is he who has made us, and not we ourselves. We are his people and the sheep of his pasture.
Thank you. Then it's very clear from that particular verse. One has to believe it. You are only a product of creation that are actually God created. Now, again, let's go into the New Testament, Acts 17, verse number 26. What does it say?
Acts 17, 26.
Yes.
The Bible reads that, and he has made from one blood every nation of men to dwell on all the face of the earth, and has determined their pre-appointed times and the boundaries of their dwellings.
Now, who has done that again?
God himself.
God himself has done that. Now, look at a very interesting verse, Ephesians chapter 3, verse 9. This is by Brother Paul. What does he say?
Ephesians 3, verse 9.
Yes.
Yeah, Ephesians 3, verse 9, the Bible records that, and to make all see that is the, and to make all see what is the fellowship of the mystery which from the beginning of the ages has been hidden in God, who created all things through Jesus Christ.
There you are. So, my brothers and sisters, therefore, the first question, which is weighty, that has been answered, and we can see actually the commonality of the main theme in those verses. The common thing in those verses is that God is the center of what exists, that which was created. And therefore, we can comfortably invoke that to be able to answer this difficult question: how did we get here? Now, if we do not understand how we got here, then we would have problems in explaining why we're here and where we are going. I leave it at that for observations and comments, and then other comments will come up as we study the next bits of the lesson. You will notice that there are a number of principles that are involved and linked to the next parts of the lesson that we discussed this week. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yep. No, we need comments. What is all this settling down the way? And the elders explained to us. What is the what did we get from it? Any comment from anybody?
And perhaps, Dan, even as they try to bring some comments on the same,
Yes.
our elder has explained it clearly. But
Yes.
he has explained it clearly that it is indeed God who created us, and we know this by faith. But
Yes.
one question I will pose is that how does knowing that God made us affect our relationship with Him?
Good question.
Yeah.
Good question. How does knowing God created us affect our relationship with Him? I think this is a question, really. Yeah. I like that what Gift is saying. The issue is always we talk about how God created the whole earth and everything, and that we can confirm that. But then the question Gift is asking is, then what? Now that we know, how important is that? And if we cannot be able to answer that, then what is our relationship with God if we don't see why Him creating us is that important? What is it? Because it will come up again. The angels will come out and tell us, praise God who created the angels will say that, the three angels. And this message comes on over and over again. Why is it important?
Can I say something what really comes out in this Sunday part? All through this Sunday part, we see that God is the source of all that exists. Human beings and nature are not self-existent. We owe our being and containers to God. Again, here we see God is the subject. Is the subject in that He created this world. God wants a relationship with us, and He is our creator. We are to bring glory to God. Again, we see here the love of God is being shown. And lastly, is giving us that responsibility to make disciples. He wants us to be a living relationship with Him and humankind. Thank you.
Thank you, Enos. Yes, God has created everything. I'm seeing something that Gift has brought about as an interesting issue, and Enos, you've touched it very, very slightly, but you've touched on it. And the thing that is coming out, maybe we can relate it this way. Many of us here are parents. Some of us are going to be parents, and at the end, you'll start building a home for the family. And you're building the home, and you see the world being created and everything. But you see, the next element that comes in is what we are going to be able to appreciate, why the creation process is really connected to our relationship with God. As God created the world, he created the world with us in mind at the end of it all. And this is what maybe might come out if Mary touches us kidogo with in the image of the maker. Then we will see why our image of the maker, in our image of the maker, and the relationship that what just Elder has brought about, everything has just been created. Then there is a group of people who are going to be made in an image of God who's creating the world. Mary, probably you can take us through that.
Now, stand before Maria gets to the next debate.
Yes.
Now, Gift's question is extremely important, by the way, extremely important. Because you see, if you do not believe by faith that you were created by God, then it means, therefore, as a human being, you would not have reason for obeying God. You would have no reason for loyalty to God. In other words, you'd attribute your existence to another principle other than God. And that is what brings rebellion against God. The fact that we do not understand and we don't believe that God is a creator, then we'll begin to go into like principles of, for example, of evolution. The evolutionist theories then will try to get root in order to explain really human existence. That is the danger. And really that interferes with the relationship with God if we don't understand that we are actually created beings that were created by God. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Elder, for that comment.
Only answering that question Gift has put. It's actually a very global question. And Mary, let's just hear from you now.
Actually, what Elder has discussed is very important because that makes us who we are and why we should relate to God. When we opened our discussion today, you read for us Genesis 1, verse 27. And when you look at Genesis 1:27, of course you did 26 and 27, but the author is looking at 27, talking about God creating man in his own image and it's male and female. You know, both of them are created in the image of God. Then the question that comes into our mind, when we talk about an image of God, we have not seen God, but God is telling us in his word that man is made in the image of God. What does that tell us? When we talk about an image, it's like we are talking about of a shadow, an outline of a figure, a resemblance. So if we have been made in the resemblance of God, definitely we have never seen God, but it's clear that we are made in the resemblance of God. When we are made in the resemblance of God, what do we know about this God? In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. So it is telling us that we are made in a resemblance of a person who created the heavens and the earth. That brings us to thinking of these people have been made in the image of God. What is it about them? That means we resemble God by having a mind, because God makes the world and he made it from nothing. God himself makes the human beings. We are in the resemblance of God. God has a mind. God made man with a mind. What is the value of the mind in a person? The mind in a person, the man is given what we call the power of choice, the freedom to think, the freedom to act as a moral being, the freedom to love, the freedom to obey, to trust, and to distrust. So the element of freedom, a man who thinks comes in here. Yes, we pick that from our Creator himself. Actually, when you look through, you find out that the thinking aspect, the mind aspect, is what makes man different from other creatures. Other creatures, God said, God spoke and it came to be. But when it comes to man, God molds man. God creates or molds the woman. That is the difference we have. We also realize that when God makes this creation, there is the aspect of our spiritual and mental aspect of our mind. Elder had elaborated on that when he talks about when we have the spiritual and mental aspect, this mental and spiritual aspect that God made in a person. This was the uniqueness of the human mind, so that we can have a relationship with God. But now in the world that we live in, unless we accept that God is our creator, we tend to think and act differently than having a relationship with God. That is why God all the time tries to draw us closer to him. He has given us a mind to think. He has given us the spiritual and mental aspects of our mind to reflect upon this creator who made man. You know, we are supposed to have a relationship with God. So it's very important for us to know that in the image of God, God gives us a mind. We have a spiritual aspect to relate to him, to be able to recognize him. And unless we recognize God as our creator who gives our spiritual and mental well-being, we realize that we go out of what God expects of us. So our relationship is actually not what God wants us to have, because we choose our own choice. However, I said we had the freedom. So this is the freedom that God wants us really to have. The author mentioned something very important. This has been discussed over and over again, but in practical reality, it does not exist. The status of a male and a female. There's no one who is supposed superior and another one is supposed to be inferior. You know, the man and female, when God makes them, they're supposed to have a special relationship with him. You know, they are supposed to have characters that develop and glorify God. There's no superior man or woman. The idea of picking up about superior is actually our own creation. And we live in a modern society, the way we live in our societies. You watch TV like me, how people are beaten, how people kill each other. God did not intend that. Actually, it was spoken in the opening aspect. God did not make us to kill each other. God did not make us to be liars. Sorry, those are our own creations. But God gives us a very special relationship between the man and woman, supporting of each other, caring for each other, at the side of each other, but not a superior and inferior relationship. Elder, I can stop it there for comments.
All right. I think it's open now for discussion. I want comments now.
Add something on that.
Any comments?
Yes.
Naomi, you have a comment, I can see.
So, as I was reading Genesis 1:7, sometimes we tend to read it very quickly. We rub over it. We don't take time to read every. One of our favorite speakers says you read the Bible microscopically, and so in Genesis 1:27, you're told that God said, "Let us," us being a plural word, meaning God was talking to someone else, to some other being. He was not alone. And so he says, let us make man in our image. Again, the plurality of the image, meaning God in his existence, he's plural in form. And therefore the thing that he's also making is going to be in plural form. And he is communicating with these other beings. In other words, he's relating with these other beings. In other words, he's having communion with these other beings. And therefore, when he makes us in his image, another aspect that I think also Mary had also mentioned is that the image of relationship, of communion with one another. So God being in a relationship with, of course, we already know that God, which is Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit, and therefore they are in communion and they decide to make man. And so man is also created in the form in that we are created to be social, to be relational, to have communion with one another. I think that's also an important aspect when you try to understand us being made in the image of God. It's spiritual, it's physical, it's mental, and I also believe it's social. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm also commenting.
Speak.
Yeah, being created in the image of God means that we were able, given both the ability to create and to be creative. You can see that among all living beings, only human have the ability. Of course, some animals and insects, like beavers, make dams, and ants, large nets, but these are fixed, limited ability that allow them to survive. But human beings are the only true creative beings on earth. Not only that we can be creative, we can drive. We are being given this ability to create. Each of us has a creative spark of some kind. Some of us, we can use our hands. Others have this creative art. They can use their hands to be. They can write. The others can sing, music, athletes. Children can draw so many things. So as human beings, we have been given this ability. Not only, I had someone on saying that God does not have hands, head, but this character of God can be seen in us in this other ways of life. We can use these things that we have given to be a blessing to others. Thank you.
So the very question comes in then. Naomi talks to us and tells us that we should realize the plurality of the God, the Creator. Then we also have Nene Walter telling us about the aspect of having ability to be a bit creative in nature, that we can use our mind, we can use a number of things. But then it then brings us another issue.
Stan.
Yes, it's an issue of connectivity. We've lost Stan, huh? Elder.
Yeah, it seems you have lost Stan.
Now, Stan, mute. Unmute Stan.
Sorry, I was knocked out. I don't know why sometimes Zoom does.
Yeah, we had a lapse there, a lapse of interconnectivity. Yeah?
Yeah, I don't know why it does that at times. It throws us out. But anyway, back to the issue. I was just saying, one, Naomi has clarified to us and told us that one, that we have the element of the plurality, and then we have Walter talking about us having creative ability. Then there's something that, as we started off from the beginning, is when we notice that both male and female are made in the image of God. That then gives us a very clear thing that it's not about physicality, but it's about character, that it's about personality, that it's about something different. It's not about how physical we look, because if we are both in the image of God, then it's not the physical image. I'm seeing that. And how important is that then in where we are going in terms of our promise? Why then would that element of our image be very important? Maybe that's a question I need to ask before we continue. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you, Stan. Huh?
Yeah.
Can I try, Stan? Huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, Mary told us very clearly
Yes.
that humans actually have a moral consciency. In other words, we have a mental being. We also have a physical being and a spiritual being. We know God is spirit. God does not have a physical body like we do. God is divine. In fact, since we are spiritual beings and we have a mental that allows us to be able to make choices, the power to make choices, so we can, out of our ability that God has given us, either accept that which is right or do the opposite. So that is the power of choice. And see, the power of choice does have consequences. Now, this is important, by the way, in our relationship with God, as we discover again, and I don't want to preempt what we're going to discuss. The big test that led to the failure of our parents in obeying God related to their power of choice. Now, of course, God knew very well that he didn't create robots. So he had given them that opportunity to exercise that power of choice. Now, that power of choice is very important in our relationship. It's also, of course, important, as Sister Naomi was telling us, in our communion with others, in our communion with God, and also in our fellowship, and indeed in our worship. Thank you.
This connection can be bad today.
Yeah, today the connections are bad. I'm actually noticing many of us are having network issues. But then I think we've heard what Elder is talking about. And probably maybe we need to move on. Now, the next part is quite important, because now we are looking at what happens from this point. Now, our relationship between God and humankind. I wanted someone to pick on that one, maybe someone to guide us and explain to us this relationship between humankind. What God and humankind together. Gift. Gift. Is Gift with us here? Hello. Okay. Anyway, let's say God and humankind. We are trying to see the interrelation between God and humankind together. In the Garden of Eden, the purpose and the design for that God had designed the Garden of Eden to be a place where humankind and Him would relate and commune and have a relationship that was meant to be holy in nature. And among, I think that Elder has been telling us about, it's not a question of fear or of boss master relationship. It was more a one-to-one relationship, a moment of feeling father and child relationship. That was what I'm looking at. And let me just look at these words that come from the book of Genesis 1:28 to 29. Then God blessed them, and God said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply. Fill the earth and subdue it. Have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves on earth." And God said, "See, I have given you every herb that yields seed, which is on the face of all the earth, and every and every tree whose fruit yields seed. To you it shall be food, it shall be for food." Now we are seeing an interesting thing where God is actually talking about one, asking him to be fruitful and multiply. Elder, sometimes the word fruitful, does it really mean children? Because multiplying, yes, but the fruitful part, does it really mean children? And then the other aspect that we're looking at is fill the earth, we can see that, and subdue it. What does subdue part of it? Have we misunderstood the subduing part of it? And have dominion over the fish of the sea. And this is about stewardship, basically. It's not just have dominion so that you oppress. And the dominion part, again, here are words that are picking on what Naomi was talking about. The words, how we translate the words. Does subdue mean over-exploit it? Does dominion mean sit over the birds and the things that live on earth? And does fruitful mean something different apart from what multiply means? These are the questions that we ask ourselves. What is this relationship? What is God and humankind together? What was all that about? Why was God giving us this role to play in terms of dominion, subduing, multiply, and being fruitful? The issue of food is clear. That is meant to sustain us. It's very clear. Eat those so that you sustain yourself. But there are some instructions that we are seeing. We are seeing subduing. We are seeing dominion. We are seeing fruitful. What has the meanings been if you've read the lesson this week? I think this question will then be able to define this part. Anybody to take up on that question? Anybody? Brian, I can see you coming in and coming out. Are you wanting to answer this question?
Maybe, Elder, maybe I can try.
Yes.
We can see what were the instructions given to Adam and Eve in follows. Number one, they say they were able to reproduce as a species. You have asked to say, what does fruitful mean? I can say when someone says that maybe I can use myself, Walter is fruitful, doesn't mean that definitely you must have children. There are so many things good surrounding you. That's why number one, we say that God said that they were able to reproduce as a species, to reproduce. Number two, they were able to take care of the creation, taking care of others. When you take care of others, then it means you are being fruitful because you are taking care of the creation of God. Others, they were given a suitable diet, taking care of our bodies using the diet that God gave us. Also depending on God's blessing and the care. So being fruitful is all around, not only having able to reproduce. That's maybe what I can comment.
Actually, you are going the direction that I'm looking at, because As we notice the build-up, as we began, we talked about a world being created. The next thing, an image of God being presented inside that world. And then the next thing we are seeing is the issue that we are now talking about, the interrelation between God and the image that he has put on the ground. And the image that we've talked about is about character, spiritualism, and now we are being told about being fruitful. And I'm seeing a situation where this has been taken wrongly to mean we just continue getting children and getting wives to have more children so that we fill the earth at no need. And then we then can argue that the word subdue means completely take over and possess. So because we are multiplying in numbers, then we are possessing. Then the other issue is the part that comes in as dominion, sit over. But here are the things that comes out very clearly, and maybe this is what I saw in this statement, is that when we are being told to be fruitful, what is that fruit we are talking about? Go back to the time when Jesus cast this fig tree. What was the problem? What was he actually giving as a message to the people who are watching? That yes, you have the word. Yes, you have learned from God. But is anybody learning from you? That is the fruitfulness that God wants. That his story be told. I am the creator of the world. That I am love. Are we showing one another the love? Is our fruit about showing love? Remember, the fruit of the Spirit, you remember, is a number of characteristics, love, kindness, and all that. That is what the fruitfulness that we are seeing that is there, that is different from the multiply. Because once we are fruitful in that nature, then naturally it will multiply in the minds of many people. And then the filling of the earth is the same thing, filling the earth with God's goodness and subduing it with God's goodness. And then having dominion is about stewardship, taking care of what I have given you. Taking care of what I have given you. So this is God and humankind working together. This is what we should pick from here as we go towards the promise, because we've seen a creation taking place. A world has been created. Number two, now we've seen the human nature that we are that is in his image. But as God's image, we are worthless if we do not become fruitful and show the presence and the love of who God is. Maybe I just want to leave it at that as I open this up for discussion now.
Elder, there is something that comes to my mind. Even as I heard you articulate this very clearly. Now, what I'm seeing here is God involving man in terms of management of the material things and that which is created at a higher level in making decisions on how to interact with that which God has created. And we see therefore this level of management of that which God has created as being a superior role than the role actually delegated to the other things, the other animals that we have within the universe. So man here makes deliberate decisions on how to deal with his interaction with the things that God created in terms of management and so on. And God involves man in procreation. He becomes a partner in creation, by the way. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, that is extremely important because you can see therefore man elevated to a much higher level because of what Mary told us. Man is capable of thinking and making decisions. And because of his spiritual dimension, he can actually spiritually relate to a God and be able to interrogate everything within the domains that God has given him in relation to his relationship. So I think this particular part is extremely important. God allows us to partner with him, not only in managing his creation, but also, in fact, in becoming a partner in replenishing that which God has created. Again, this elevation of man to a higher level actually indicates the superiority that God has bestowed upon man in the management and all stewardship, if you will, of his creation. Thank you.
Yeah, good. Are you guys hearing me? I'm feeling like I'm losing myself. You can hear me? Good. You see how elders put it across. It's turning out everything that God had designed until this moment was purposely intended to introduce a correlationship and a partnership between humankind and God. It's a question that God had elevated humankind to be in a point of partnership. But then what? We stopped at a point where we were told that we can eat anything. I mean, the food is there. So now we are coming now to the vegetation and the rest. And there is a tree that is now coming here in. And maybe, Naomi, you can tell us. Now, here we are. We have stopped and we have told everything in those trees are good for food. Then trees come at the tree, and there we are. So, Naomi, maybe pick us from that point. What is happening in this issue? Why we are now at food, and what is the food going to be causing now the next thing?
So I'd just like to start off by reading Genesis 2:16 and 17, which I know we all know, are very familiar with the story, but allow me just to read. It says this: "And the Lord commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden thou mayst freely eat, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat of it. For in the day that thou eatest thereof, thou shalt surely die." Now, there's a lot of thou in that verse. It comes off as a command, because in fact, the verse itself begins by saying that God commanded man. But before I get into this verse, for us to really understand this verse, we must be able to answer Gift's question at the very beginning, which was, how does knowing that God is your creator affect our relationship with him? And we all know that human beings were created with the freedom of choice, and that is exactly what you're seeing here in Genesis 2:16. God is allowing man to exercise that free will, freedom of choice. It's a test that God has put in front of man to, number one, exercise his freedom of choice, and number two, and which is, I believe, is the most important thing, to see how man responds to Christ, responds to God's character. I also want to add something on this part of the tree. We see that God says that in this garden I've given you several trees, but don't eat of this one. In other words, it's not one good tree versus one bad tree. It is one bad tree versus a million good trees. Okay? So in other words, what you're seeing is a manifestation of God's character, which is God is gracious. God is he gives us things in abundance, and he allows us to choose for ourselves. God is gracious, God is merciful, God is love, because he created us in love. And therefore, when God manifests his love by giving man all these trees from which to eat from, and says only this one, don't eat from it, he's asking man to respond to his character of love. And in other words, at the end of the day, what God is trying to do at the tree is to test man's loyalty. Is to see, I I like the way the lesson has put it. Just allow me to read that one paragraph here. That it says that if you're willing to affirm the relationship, what relationship? The relationship between God and us, which we have alluded to from the very beginning. That if you're willing to affirm this relationship with me because you love me, again, the motivating factor here is love, that then I will be your God and you will be my children. Again, the father-child relationship that we talked about on Tuesday. And then he continues to say, and you can affirm this relationship and trust the trust implicit in it by simply obeying this specific command. So, in other words, when mankind was to choose to obey God, he was affirming the relationship of he is my father, I am his child, and therefore I love him and I will do what he asks of me. And it reminds me some time ago, last year, I think we were discussing certain lesson, I've forgotten the title, but we were talking about God's commands being God's promises. Because at the end of this Wednesday discussion, we should be able to understand, we should be able to ask ourselves the question then, as it's written in the lesson, that how then do you understand how God's laws function? Because it's a command that don't eat from this tree. So is he determining our life, how we're going to live our life, or are we really free to choose, in other words? And so I just wanted us to understand that in any kind of relationship, because we are in a relationship with Christ, for it to actually succeed, for it to last, for it to be productive and effective, there must be the element of choice. I should be able to choose you and you should be able to choose me. And you know that we already know that Christ and God has already chosen us, and therefore we need to be able to choose him back so that that relationship can work. And so when God is giving Adam and Eve this opportunity to respond to his love towards them. And then allow me just to address something written here in the question below. Then when God gives us his commandments, the 10 commandments, is he restricting our freedom of choice? I'd say the answer is no. Why? Because the commandments are promises. How? You see, when my father when I get to understand that my father is my father, and he asks of me, because I already know that my dad loves me. So when I respond to my dad's love towards me, I will not do things that he does not like. For example, because my father loves me and I love him back, I will definitely not kill him, right? If I love my father back, I will not steal from him. In other words, when God was giving these commandments, he's telling us that I love you and I know you love me back. And if you love me back, you definitely will not kill. You will not steal. You will not put other gods before me. It is a response of love. And therefore, we see at the tree, for me, what I see, it's God giving us the freedom of choice and allowing us to show loyalty to him by responding to his command to not eat of that tree. Allow me to stop at that and give it back to Elder.
Yeah, there we are. I want quick comments. We're actually coming to the end of our hour, and maybe we could just pick up immediately from the tree. You can see there we are. A tree has been given the commandments. I like the way you put it. The commandments are meant to be a promise, not orders. And they should be then followed. Then I'm a bit confused there. Elder, maybe you could open up our thinking. How can a command on the other side be a promise and at the same time be yeah. Oh yes, there's someone wants to comment. In Indeche, sorry, just before Elder can speak.
Okay, before Elder can speak,
Yes.
I also have a question. Elder come summarize. Now the question is,
Yes.
I've been asking myself, why did Adam eat this fruit?
Yes.
Is it that he was cornered by Eve to eat the fruit, or maybe he had forgotten the instructions from God? Because I understand that if is the one who convinced Adam to eat the fruit, does it mean that Adam has forgotten the commandments or the instructions, or does it mean that he did not want maybe to let Eve down? Thank you.
Yeah, Elder, I think that's a good question. But I'm also going to be very quick at reminding people at what Naomi told us in the beginning. That when we read the Bible, sometimes we fill in spaces. And it's good that he has brought about the question of who convinced the other. If I read my Bible, I don't see a point where Adam is convinced. I see the Adam, and also Adam took. He did not, there's no point where Eve is telling Adam, and whatever. So there is some misconception and misinterpretation and misreading that I find there. Adam willingly did take the fruit. Unless I'm wrong, maybe I'm not seeing it, but I'm looking at the fall of man, and I see Adam first taking. Where shall I? Can I read it? I think that's in the chapter 3 and the question. Can someone help me? Verse 6. No, that is verse. Yes. Oh, there's giving. There is giving. There is. She also gave to her husband, and he ate. So the issue is give, but we are not seeing the point where give and convince. We are saying give and then took and he ate. He didn't seem to ask the question, where did you get this fruit from? Maybe, Elder, maybe give us some light here.
Okay, thank you, Stan, again. This is a very interesting bit of this lesson. You know, God creates man, that's man and woman, in his own image, which means, therefore, that man has divine attributes, and man also has the power to choose. He was not created a robot, as it were. And so when God allows, actually God is not testing man here, God is allowing Adam to be able to exploit his inherent potential that God gave him in order to continue having that relationship that God desired him to have with him. And God, of course, having created him as it were perfect, and having given him the power to be able to choose, would not manipulate man. So we notice here that something very interesting happened. As a test of loyalty and faith, man is allowed to the opportunity to be able to exercise his power of choice. But you notice here that something goes amiss insofar as this is concerned. Given the variety from which to choose, man decides again to exploit his potential to choose the wrong thing. In other words, he disobeyed God. But God actually had allowed him the opportunity to be able to exploit that. So God did not command him, as it were, as you would have commanded the robot to be able to do A, B, C, D. But God allowed him the opportunity to be able to exercise his power of choice. And of course, choices have consequences. Choices have consequences. And the only reason why God created man in his own image was to be able to ensure that he would use his divine attributes to be able to have a perfect relationship with him. But you notice actually that this did not happen, as it were. Now, this Indeche has brought up another very interesting dimension. By the way, what is interesting is that Adam was not deceived. Adam knew the truth. It is Eve actually that was deceived. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good. As you can see now, we are getting into the thick of things. But in the meantime, as we are looking at that, because we're coming to the end of this, we've now seen.
Please.
Let's go piece by piece. And piece one is we've seen a creation going on, and God created everything, and that we can attest, and we know that everything has been created by God. Then God places an image of his in his creation. Then God gives a role for them to play, a partnership, creates a partnership agreement between the what he has created and elevated to manage the issues, and gives some slight instruction. This you cannot do. In any contract, in any agreement, you agree and you say this will not be done. This is how we'll manage things. This is the guideline of how we are going to manage things. But then a choice is made by the person you gain as a manager to disregard elements of that. And we are seeing it from what Naomi has presented in the area of the tree. But what has that resulted to? If Vincent can take us through what has resulted, then maybe we can now cap it up and finish up this thing and say, between this and this and this and this is happening. So Vincent, maybe take us through.
You.
Yes.
Hope you're getting me.
Yeah, I can get you now.
Thank you. Actually, when I was going through this day of Thursday, many questions came to my mind. You know, the day of Thursday talks about breaking the relationship. We see now man has been created in the Garden of Eden. As is in this Garden of Eden, the relationship is good. But in chapter 3, something is happening. That's why when I read Genesis chapter 1, Genesis chapter 2, we are very perfect. But Genesis chapter 3, there's what they call the fall of man. Genesis chapter 3, the fall of man, it's in connection with Genesis chapter 2, verse 17, which says that you must not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. For when you eat of it, you will surely die. Now, in chapter 3, verse 2, now we see the serpent is here. Chapter 3, verse 1, which is the snake, is approaching the woman. The first question which came to my mind when I was reading this, you know, the man and the woman were created together. These people were supposed to be together. But where was the man? Where was Adam? Because we see it's only Eve who is being approached by the serpent. But verse 2, it said that the woman said to the serpent, we may eat fruit from the tree in the garden. Verse 3, but God did not say you must not eat from the tree from the garden, that is the middle of the garden, and you must not touch it, or you will die. Remember chapter 17 said that when you will eat it, you will surely die. But if it's adding a certain concept, you must not touch it, which is not there in chapter 2, verse 17. That's another question which came to my mind. Another thing which is happening, now Satan is changing the truth. Actually, Satan is changing a slight truth. He is using the word, you will not surely die. But we see later, Eve took the fruit, she ate it. After she ate it, also she gave the husband. Also, the husband took the fruit. In chapter 3, verse 6. And the verse 7, we see their eyes were open. As their eyes were open, then another concept comes in. You know, as the eyes is being open, in Genesis chapter 1, Genesis chapter 2, Genesis now chapter 3, as their eyes is open, something is happening. Now they realize they are naked. As they realize they are naked, a certain concept is coming in. Which is this concept? You know, there was what he called fellowship. Man was fellowshipping with God together. But because of this concept, the concept of fear comes in chapter 2, in chapter 3, verse 9. Finally, we see in chapter 3, verse 9, God is asking man, where are you? He answered, I heard your voice in the garden and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid myself. Adam is giving an answer which was not supposed to be answered like that, because God is asking, where are you? And Adam is saying that I saw that I was naked. Which lesson are we going to draw from this? Which lesson about breaking the relationship? Man sinned. As man sinned, he has taken the forbidden tree. Consequences comes in. From chapter 3, verse 14 downwards, we see consequences. After all these consequences, there's what you call a promise of hope. This promise of hope is in chapter 3, verse 15. But finally, breaking the relationship. So there was the lacuna, there was the gap between man and God. Now God is filling this lacuna, God is filling this gap in chapter 3, verse 21, where they're supposed to call the shed of the blood. May the Lord bless you. Thank you.
Good. Yes. So Vincent has taken us through each and every level until the breakup. And you see, sometimes I ask myself this question anytime I'm reading this. Do we at times understand that it's not the issue of who told who that was the problem here? Because you notice it is the same thing that Adam would do when us and Eve would do. And at times, as Christians, when you are looking at this story about relationship breaking between a human and God, we tend to look for why it happened instead of understanding what disobedience brought to us. Because if we don't understand this part, maybe we will not understand then why the promise will have to come. If we don't understand this part, then maybe we will not even be able to understand why hope needs to come, because we spend so much time understanding what went wrong and why it went wrong, instead of understanding what the wrong did to us and how we played a role, our fathers, Adam and Eve, and how when we rebel, is it more important to know who told you to rebel or not? Is it still important to say the devil made me do it? Or is it quick to realize that that I am a sinner and a faulty sinner and I need hope, and I look towards the promise that hope gives us and God has presented? This is the lesson of this quarter. And what happened is so important, not for the sense of who is to be blamed, but appreciating that we were wrong and hope and promises needed to come for us to be restored. It tells us the restoration story. Just want to mention that as I open up a discussion so that we close this session. This is the time we are closing up. What do we understand, and why is it important for us to understand what happened? Because now you see the question that Gift had asked in the beginning. Gift asked us, the creation, why is it important? And
Yes,
the question is, all these events Paka Hapa would lead us to know, why is it important for us to know this so that we can register and understand the promise as we move forward?
Yeah. Yes, Stan, let me say something as we conclude. That it is just one word that I want to say, that it is at the tree that, as Naomi has put it clearly, that this relationship between man and God was broken. It was at the tree that man did not choose God. He chose the devil, as Vincent has clearly explained, that he did not follow the instruction that God had given him. He instead chose to follow the devil. And it is also at this tree that our relationship is rebuilt with God. It is at the tree of Calvary that our relationship has been cemented. It is at this tree that we find hope. And it is at this tree that we can find the promise that God has given unto us. So I think right now we need to focus more. We need to focus our hope more on the tree of Calvary. Yeah, thank you.
Any other comment?
Also a quick comment. We find that nowadays we struggle to make choices about the knowledge of good and the knowledge of evil. So I can also make a summary that it is at the tree that we make choices. We have the knowledge of good and the knowledge of evil. So if we make the right decision, we stop struggling with evil and make right choices to do what's right, then we will affect our relationship with God, which will be long lasting and effective. So let's make right decisions that will affect our relationship with God. Thank you.
May I say something? In this Genesis, we fact at the tree, and when we come to Genesis 3:15, we see now the plan of redemption for mankind is being promised by God to the world. And in fact, this is the first promise of the coming of Messiah is being promised here. When we start reading from 14 to 15, when God is telling man, I will put an enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and her offspring. This God is bringing that plan and the promise of redemption. Thank you.
No, promises are still coming in, as you can see. And as we come now to the close of this session, maybe I learned to hear one more word from Naomi before we go. Mary, or one person, a lady has not spoken, say something to wrap us up.
I just wanted to say that even as we're looking at the hope that we see at the tree at Calvary, I see hope in Genesis 3:15, and that is God coming after man, looking for man in the garden. Even after he has sinned, the first thing that God does is he comes down to the garden himself and he says, "Where art thou?" And I see that it gives me hope that God is always pursuing me constantly. Even when I fall, God is still pursuing me. And for me, the hope is not just of the coming Son, but it is of Christ Himself, of God Himself, constantly pursuing me, even from the very moment that I've started sinning. That really gives me hope. And in the words of God, I see hope, I see grace, and I see mercy. And I believe that's also for us to experience every day, that as we see Christ pursuing us, we remember that He is merciful and He's gracious unto us. God bless.
Thank you so much. Now we'll have to come to the end of this. And as we're coming to the end of it, I would like to thank all of us who have been here. We've had a very big number on the wall here. I know that we've had this difficulty on getting to our channel. We are having a problem with our channel at the moment, but we've sent a YouTube link that people can still watch from. We'll continue sharing this over the days. We want to resolve the matter that is in our channel. As I said specifically, copyright issues. Now we need to start singing our own songs. Otherwise, we will find ourselves in this trouble each and every time. So now, the next session begins at 10:40. It's a children's story by Gertrude one of our members, Gertrude Jepkoske, who's going to be giving our children some story before the divine hour that begins at 11. Links will be shared for the YouTube stream on the church wall. And those of us who will get it can share it over with the rest of the people who might not be in the wall that we are in. So thank you so much for that time that we've had. Naomi, thank you so much for joining us. I'd like to thank Florence, Ndambuki, Indeche, Walter, you are here, Bishop, Chanai, Dorcas, all the people who've joined us in this wall. The promise is here. First promise, as Enos has said, is already here. The promise is that a seed shall come. And as Naomi has just put it at the close of it, that the promises that God will continue giving us will give us a chance. As we are rebelling, God comes back for us. God comes back for us. But there's going to be a point where it stops. So I'd like us to enjoy this lesson because it takes us back to understand why God is making these promises anyway in the first place, because he had brought in a partner, but the partner became rebellious. So today, are you the rebellious partner? Then there's still a promise. There's a promise of hope. Look for the promise of hope and deny self and look at God because he has a promise for us. I'd like to ask our sister Mary, just to close with a word of prayer and maybe just a single word. Sometimes hearing your voice, Mary, makes us happy. So let us hear one. Good.
Just a minute.
Okay.
Indeed, has something to say?
Just if you can do a favor for us.
Yes.
Because this is the first time I'm doing it.
Yes.
I just found this thing somewhere in a cell WhatsApp and I was tested doing and I'm happy that I joined and
yes.
But now my worry is that next time I don't know how I'll get the same template join it.
Yes.
So I don't know if you can help so that I can be getting the link in consistency.
Subscribe to create a wall.
Yeah,
yes.
Where did you get the link from? We had sent them to numerous groups. From which platform so that we can see?
It was our WhatsApp entitled Nyimbo za Wakristo. Yes.
Oh, okay. We let me get in touch with you.
Yes.
Good. Gift, there is a job now. A lot of people want your link. So get us as many people as possible so that we have this discussion going on. So thank you so much. Mary, Sauti.
Acha tuombe. We are praying. Eternal gracious Master, we humble ourselves before you this morning. Father, we just want to thank you and worship you and glorify your name. Thank you, Lord, for speaking to us, my Father. Thank you for giving us your light, that we may know who you are and who we are and our relationship with you, my Father. You have given us the power of choice, oh my Father. We live in a world where the devil will always change the goalposts. But my Father, how we pray, like you may speak to our hearts, you may guide our hearts, that we may know you, one true God, and we may worship you in truth and in spirit, oh my Father. In the many challenges that we face in our day-to-day life, how we may learn to call upon you and always be under your wings, my Father. Take us through the Sabbath programs for this day, for we have prayed, believing and trusting in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.